Chapter 151 Great War Outbreak Start. Well, I heard the detailed account from Gadra Jisan and Shinji's group who came here before, and it was a certainty that the Empire had moved. It's as expected. First of all, a command post as the Strategic Union headquarters was set up inside the control room. Benimaru and Zoe will always be on standby here. Zoe let out many of his clones to various places. Our information gathering didn't rely only on image surveillance. To be frank, to be able to use something like high altitude image surveillance in this world's war could be said as an out of the box technique. No matter no matter what I thought, I want to see it. Previously I was troubled which route would be attacked, but it's just a funny story now. After all, to say nothing about dangerous route, even the situation inside the empire can be observed, so everything was completely exposed from their first action. If this situation is compared to a shogi match, then my side can see everything across the board while the enemy only makes a move without knowing the move that my side had made. It's that kind of feeling. Not only against an outstanding amateur, I will not get defeated by an expert enemy either. I am not playing a game with a disadvantage handicap, but rather I had an advantage, absolute superiority at my side. Oh well, it's not like war have rules or whatnot. Righteousness is with the winner. Anyway, there's no international laws in this world. Then there's no problem as there were no rule to be abided either. In the Council of Nations, more or less, there is something resembling an international treaty. Normally, the course of the event would be the head of the warring countries decided the rule during the war and after the war before starting the war. But in the case of one-sided country, aggressor country, such rules didn't apply. And so in this case, anything goes in this kind of war. Frankly, the rule that I had decided was only one. Involving the civilian is prohibited. It's only this. Of course, a follow-up attack after I declared the war had ended is absolutely prohibited. Oh well, I believe there's no one that will go against my will and didn't abide this order. Therefore, the Empire's forces, which gathered one after another, were projected on the several large screens. The first corps, commanded by Gupta, and the third corps, led by Gabil, were deployed as the vanguard force. Making use of their high-speed movement, this allows the corps to deal with the situation in any location immediately. Their numbers are few, but I judged it's not a problem if they devoted themselves on hit and run tactics. But hey, why is there a tank here? A mere soldier like Shinri and company wouldn't know a lot about military secrets, so the tank's existence was not known to them. As far as I observed them from the sky, there were 4,000 tanks. Moreover, it seemed to use magic essence as energy and it didn't seem to be necessary to replenish its fuel. This tank had high versatility and it seemed to have performance that exceeded our former world's highest performance tank easily. If I only compared by their performance, I don't know whether it moved only with magic essence, and there seems some kind of refueling, but judging from its speed, it was abnormal. I assumed bad roads would not be a problem for it even while running with 100 kilometers per hour or more. I rise from the ground slightly, just like floating in the air. Honestly, magic is incredible, so I thought, but more than that, I tasted the bitterness if only it also gets developed in here. Obviously, it incorporated the knowledge of the other worlders. Even I could hit upon that idea, but such ideas like a tank wasn't suited in a world of sword and magic. If only my head got more brains, then I could freely order for an idea. No, let's stop. There's no use even if I regret it. It's an issue for later. Then this war is over. Let's try developing things in various ways more freely. We wasn't only surprised by the tank. An airship flew seriously. It was hard to hold back the screaming. If there is that transportation will become remarkably easy. The supplies problem would be settled if it was used for war. Besides, I am optimistic that I can steal the air supremacy one-sidedly, but this might be a tad self-conceited. I was thinking of developing it, but it was practically impossible. I did various development, but it was realistically impossible to be implemented. Question mark. I should really praise the fruits of the development team of that side, honestly, because there will be no invention of such level that can be completed overnight. Well, nevertheless, I want to capture one ship safely. After thinking for a bit, there is no other way. Well, I was surprised because of the Empire's military weapons, but even so, my side wins in information warfare. Raphael roughly counted the total of the Empire's soldiers. There seem to be approximately 1 million soldiers. An outrageous number has come out. I didn't know how far Yuki had spread his influence, but it will be difficult for him to keep this number under control, right? I think this is probably because of the big effect from the I spread. If that's so, the enemy army may aim for the labyrinth. While I thought about the situation, a core emerges and begins to detour towards a different direction from the direction that the tank core is advancing to. Apparently, that core seems going to invade the border around the Dwarf Kingdom outskirts. The tank pretends not to be the main force, while the real main force was deployed in on other place. Hump, honestly, only such impression comes out. What should we do? Should Gupta and his corps that went to the front line return? No, their number is not enough anyway. Let's entrust the main force that went to another direction to Gerudo. I mean, one portion of the enemy will enter the labyrinth. It will be easy to crush every one of them. I see. How's the labyrinth? Benimaru is unusually serious. His usual frank speech has fallen silent. He now bared his true nature as the supreme general. He's really reliable. Ramirez, could you take in the entire adventurer's town around the labyrinth into the labyrinth? I could, no problem at all. I see, then let's do it like that. Having said that, I explained the circumstances to Masayuki, the commander of the volunteer army. Really? Is that thing even possible? Then I left the rest to the surprised Masayuki. Apparently, the story became like, after persuading the demon lord, he made me to definitely promise to protect the town. As expected from the hero Dono, really reliable. Like that, he receives the praise from the town citizens. Masayuki observed the spectacle with a complicated face, but even with this expression, Hirodono is still not yet satisfied. That's right. Hirodono will protect this town. We can be at peace if we entrust everything to him. Such interpretations are made. There was no one that noticed Masayuki's suffering. Thus, the surface town was moved entirely to the 101st floor of the labyrinth. The 100th floor and the 95th floor changed places. It shifts every single floor, and so the defense system was perfectly established. Or rather, it might be impossible for those troops to go past the 90th floor, because even with supplies, several days are their limit. As they can't use the inn inside the labyrinth, such thing as breaking through is impossible. The remodeled soldiers could go through 2 weeks without eating and drinking, so Shinji and company said, but it's unthinkable for them to capture the labyrinth in 2 weeks. Oh well, I can't be careless. I will think about it at the time that side had already come to attack. There's also the possibility that they keep going inside the labyrinth, but it might be useless to think about that for now. Well, with such feeling, I prepared the preparations. The town around the labyrinth is isolated, and Gerudo's second corps, with 17,000 people, was deployed as the frontage of Tempest. Inside there were 10,000 volunteer soldiers and a corps of 50,000 monsters were waiting. Because the surrounding countries will also receive the news that the empire had moved, they could succeed in organizing their army quickly, but it might probably will be too late. I wasn't able to summon them before the war, but the empire's movement exceeds my expectation. After all, I only asked them to organize and requested them to maintain the status quo in a standby state. The worst case is we got besieged and waiting for reinforcements, but in that case, it's already a losing battle. Oh well, it depends on the situation. Well done. The preparations of this side were completed as well. So let's start the war formally. The Jura Great Forest, my territory as a demon lord, has already been invaded by the tank force, as to not make the enemies realize it that our side foresees everything. I left them alone until the preparation was complete. The situation is already a territory invasion, but let's give them warning with a feel like we have just noticed them. By the way, I dispatched the newcomer to each corps as an intelligence officer. Gupta, while looking dubiously, a woman who doesn't have business with the battle is unfit for the first corps, Su said so, but that woman truth's identity is Testarossa. You will be killed by me, so she said, and Gupta fell silent. I mean, that way seems more interesting. Let's wait expectantly for him to start gusp or something like that later. In contrast to Gupta, Gabil has matured. There are many circumstances that I don't understand, so I'm counting on you. So he said with so he said when I introduced him to Ultima. Testarossa, Ultima, Carrera. To be honest, the one with the cruelest personality among these three demon dukes might be Ultima. Gupta might be in danger if I swapped the one sent to his core. On that point, Gabil seemed to have taken a liking to Ultima. That's great, that's great. Although I informed them that while obeying the general's order, their true identity must never be exposed, but I feared that they would do something without any hesitation while still obeying the order and yet perform a retribution at the enemy. Ultima seems to be a person who will do such kind of thing. Gabil, it seems you have saved your own life after I had warned you to not get cocky. Therefore, the current amusement is only Gupta. Oh well, as for Testarossa, which I dispatched as an intelligence officer, they would be obedient in the beginning, while wait and see, as long as it's in the limits of my order. So I get in contact with Gupta, first of all, issuing the warning. Well, who should I pick? Gupta was lacking in showiness. Gabil was a hidden force for the time being, as he was on a standby in the air. If it comes to this, Testarossa, I entrust this to you. Yes, thank you very much. I will meet your expectations, surely. I ordered Testarossa. Oh well, if it's her, I will not have to worry that she's going to die even if the Empire doesn't want useless talks and attack her. It's a farce, but it's necessary to be cliche. It's all right even if I exterminate them all without saying anything, but a demon lord needs to put up a performance. Next scene, Lieutenant General Gastar, who was Calburius' confidant, lied on his back at his personal use command vehicle placed behind the latest tank corps, listening to the situation of the great forest surroundings. His position as Lieutenant General was appropriate as Gastar's ability is high. He possessed ability to control sound, and he also possessed ability to finally analyze the situation just by hearing various sounds, unique skill called musician. Also, he can give specific instructions using a special wave, and he can give an order only to his allies even during a scuffle. During even during a scuffle. In addition, he had the hidden trump card that can cause cytoclasis using sound wave cannon, and he was an influential person who held a high ranking position within the empire. That Lieutenant General Gaston notices that the surrounding sounds suddenly ceased, and so gave a halt order to the entire army. A short time later, after he issued that order, he saw three people walked from the forest's direction. They weren't an ordinary traveler, and no one would think that this is just a chance encounter. A beautiful woman was leading the three. She possessed a beauty that can't be thought to be a human's. Her scarlet hairs flowed lovely and made her good looks stand out, but on contrary with that beautiful face, her body was wrapped in a formal military uniform. The two people who followed on her rear were similar, a middle-aged handsome man who seemed to be straight, and a bit fat man of unknown age wore a military uniform with a same design. Gastar understood and had no doubts that these three people were the demon lord's subordinates. When the woman stopped her walk, she bowed and had a sweet smile towards their direction. Everyone, nice to meet you for the first time. My name is Testa Rosa. I'm a retainer of the great demon lord Rimuru, the master of this area. Then the business I have today is I will overlook this if you all leave right now, but I will not pardon it further if you all went in more than this, to convey these words of my master. So that woman, Testarossa, seems to be her maid, said. At the same time, the man behind her lightly waved his hands. A wall of flame appeared at the moment, 1 meter in front of the most forward invading tank. The wall of flame vanishes instantly, leaving a burnt mark on the ground that became a straight line. You all already understand, right? When you pass this line, your lives will forfeit. People who don't have the resolution must not pass it. Well then, have a good day. Testarossa turns back. turns back from the spot after she left behind a graceful bow. The men behind her followed her to leave the place. They said that they want to say one-sidedly without even considering this side at all. Their conducts instigated Castor's anger. Do it, Gastar briefly Do it. Gastar briefly gave an order to the sniper. Receiving the order, the soldier who held the sniper rifle take aims on Testarossa, and then, silently, a soundless type magic bullet was shot. Testarossa, who turned around, deepens her smile and laughs evilly. The magic bullet, which should pierce her body, was precisely stopped by Testarossa's delicate index finger. The bullet initial velocity reaches 3 times the speed of sound, and it's a lump of undetected magic power. At the same time of bullet impact, that magic power will be released. That bullet which should kill and wounding the target surely was just blocked in the mid-flight without any problem and was lightly thrown away, just like dealing with a worthless toy. And then the three walk away without turning around again and leave without saying anything. Fear and confusion almost bursting inside Gastar's mind, but he suppressed it with his willpower. The ordinary soldier didn't understand what just had happened. Only himself and the sniper that could notice what just happened. Inside Gastar's mind, fear and humiliation were hanging on the scales, and the one which won was the humiliation. Don't be confused. The victory is dedicated to His Majesty, the Emperor. All troops charge. The tank corps started to advance. All at once, to Gastar's loud voice command, they stepped over the warning line easily, and the war had begun. End of chapter 151.